I've had this dream. I've told you about this. I've had this dream to be an Olympian, to be an Olympic athlete playing with USA team handball in Los Angeles in less than 2.5 years away, right? And I've been clear about this dream for the last 18 years once I got into the sport. And I moved to new cities. I went to different countries. I've traveled the world playing this sport. I've moved all my time and energy around making it happen to get on the USA national team, staying on the team for a decade. Then life happened and I got off track for a few years, but now I've been back for the last few years, reorganizing my time and setting my life up in a way to get myself to the Olympics as an athlete in 2028. Now I get goosebumps just thinking about it and saying it. I feel it in my body. I feel excited. I see myself on the bench, coming off the bench, scoring a goal. I see myself singing the national anthem in front of 30,000 people. I feel it. I feel like all the things that I've had to overcome to get there and the obstacles in my way that were just like, I'm excited about these obstacles because it's just helping me grow into changing and developing into the person I need to be to make this thing happen. But I also know it's not guaranteed. Like tomorrow's not guaranteed. I may not be here. Like whatever reason, there might be a reason why I'm not on the team. I also have that understanding that you can set an intention for a big goal, a big dream. I want to hit this much in sales or make this much or have this type of thing. And you could feel it and it still may not happen, or it may look different than what you originally envisioned, right? It maybe something better happens. Maybe it's like life happens in some other way. Could you coach me as an example for anyone else who has a big dream 2, 4, 10 years away that they're excited about? They're organizing their life. They're planning. They're taking the daily actions. They're letting go of the old self and stepping into that new self that actualizes that goal and dream. Could you coach me on the process? If there's anything that might be limiting me from holding me back from creating this, is it even silly for me to say, well, maybe it won't happen? Like even remove that thought? Should I let that go and say it's happening no matter what? Like, how should I be interpreting and thinking about this while I'm taking the actions, I'm doing the right steps, I'm embodying the emotion, I'm visualizing, I'm all those things I'm doing, but is there anything I'm doing wrong?
Well, first of all, I think you're doing a lot of things right.
Okay,
just because just your body language in general and just your enthusiasm and theos filled with God, you're the idea of that future is so amazing that you're experiencing it right now. Right?
Yeah, I get chills when I think about it.
Yeah, that's exactly the body responding to the mind, right? And so I think it's really healthy. I think everything you're doing is really great. There's always that one catch of like, what if it isn't the truth? Like, what if I love this stuff and what if it doesn't work? It's a really tough one. I face that a lot too.
Really?
Yeah. But like, what's the alternative? The alternative is you're not going to play small at this point.
I'm not.
You're not.
I'm all in.
So I always ask myself, what is that point where everybody else stops? Wherever that point is, I'm going to go past that point. Because if I can go past that point where everybody stops, I'm going to have a lot of trust in myself, a lot of belief in myself, right? So, and your belief in yourself has to be earned, right? You have to earn that.
Yes. You can't fake it.
You can't. You got to show up enough times where you start feeling pretty worthy, right? And, there's limitations with talent and skill and all that, all that stuff, age, all those things are factors. But if you're doing everything that you're doing the way you're doing it right now, I think it's also really healthy to be totally resolved if it doesn't happen. Because if you're resolved if it doesn't happen, then you could say, that was a great ride. Like, I would never be this guy, right? And then, of course, as you said, I always leave that door open for like, okay, that didn't happen, but wow, this happened, and it happened in a way that I'd never thought of, right? I'd never expected.
Some people might think about this and say, okay, you have to obsess about the goal, the dream, the outcome that you want to create, whether it's a year away or 10 years away. But if it doesn't happen and you're obsessed about it, are you crushed? Is like your life over? Some people may not be prepared for when it doesn't happen. It's
never over.
Yeah.
It's never over.
So how do you in your mind have all the excitement, all the joy, all the anticipation, feel the feelings, think things, do the actions, but then is there also 1% of you saying, but this may not happen and that's okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's how you interpret it?
Yeah. But I mean, that is not a voice that I'm going to allow to dominate my mind.
So it's not going to be a 99% of the time.
It's a healthy voice that like, Joe, you're going to go as hard as you can. You're going to go all in. You're going to make something that you're going to enjoy doing.
Yes.
And your goal is realistic and you can get there, and just keep going past that point where you normally stop. Put in a little extra time, work a little harder, feel good about it, and you may arrive and you may not. And if you don't, be okay with it. But we're focusing on this as an outcome.
So you have that thought as well sometimes.
Of course, but what's taken me the longest time is to try to no longer try to control the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to lay down the very thing we've done our whole life to get what we want for something else to happen, and that's not that easy, right?
So what's the difference between trying to control the outcome and doing everything you can to create the outcome, and also surrendering to what happens?
Yeah, I think when you get to a point where you're satisfied with yourself, it's really easy to surrender. And
how do you know if you're satisfied, or if that's the point where you usually stop and everyone stops and you need to continue?
I mean, you know what that point is.
Okay.
You always know what that point is, where you went, wow, I would have never pushed myself this hard today. I'm so glad I showed up. I'm really happy with my effort. Let me just review what I did well. I want to do that again. Catalog that in there, rehearse it a few times, and then go out and enjoy your day. And I think surrender is not something that you ever finish with. I think it's an ongoing process. My understanding of surrender today is very different than it was a year ago, because it's an ongoing process of letting go, right?
What have you had to surrender to in your life recently?
No, I mean, it's always a constant process of trusting the unknown.
Oh.
And if I start getting in the way, especially if I'm in the creative process, and sometimes if I try to direct it, it doesn't always work for me. So I have to be 1 foot in the real world and 1 foot in the quantum world. I got to straddle both worlds. So
what does that look like? 1 foot in the real world and 1 foot in the quantum world.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're going to get up and you're going to go to work. You're going to be kind to people. You're going to be caring. You're going to be in good spirits. You're going to do your absolute best. You're going to do all the things that make you a great person. And, there's a lot of things you have to do in life. We're in a plane of demonstration. We do, right? But if you're creating in your meditations and you're creating from the field, you're trying to expedite the distance between the thought of what you want and the experience of having it. That's why we create from the field, right? So the synchronicities and the opportunities that start showing up should be working along with you stepping into that future. In other words, you're not going to be a great handball player unless you show up for practice.
That's true.
I mean, I had friends in college that applied every year to be an astronaut. And I say to them, they're never going to pick you. You don't know the first thing about aerospace, but they did it anyway because they love doing it, right? So there's a reality check here where you got to work hard. That's the 3D world. You got to still show up. You still got to change diapers. You still got to do things, right?
Yeah.
And that's the 3D world. But you do it with grace. You do it with respect. You do it with honor. You do it with dignity. You do it in a certain state and with love. And then you create from the field, and that's where you're looking at the experiment, how much of the experiment you could actually prove to be true for yourself, right? And that's the fun part. So nothing is ever lost in that process, because a person who dedicates their life to something like that and goes all in and gets to a certain point and they make it, or they get to a certain point that's just shy of it, if the person is astute in life, they'll use that same thing to create something even greater in their life, greater than the dream that they had right there, and they'll expedite the outcome in a shorter amount of time. So in the light of all eternity, every religion says we're eternal except for maybe a few. Consciousness never dies because energy never does. You're going to be around a long time, so how many experiences could you have, right? So what's the rush, right? I think it's what you're doing is there's a healthy, immersive way to do it, and the resolve is with yourself, and the resolve is I've given my absolute best.
Gotcha.
And if you resolve that way, you feel satisfied that way. Somehow we let go of how it's going to happen, and when we let go of how it's going to happen, it happens in a new way. And sometimes it's really surprising, which it should be, right?